Welcome to our morning devotional. Again, my name is Aaron. I serve as the campus pastor at Crossroads Campus, Christchurch Crossroads. And we are just kind of diving a little bit deeper into the book of Daniel. So I want to look at Daniel chapter 1, starting in verse number 2. It's a very interesting verse in the way that it's said, and the way that it's written. So it says, "And the Lord delivered Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into Nebuchadnezzar's hand." So it's interesting because we know that Daniel was taken captive. Daniel and Israelites were taken captive. They went to Babylon 1,000 miles away, ripped away from all their familiarity. But what I find interesting in here is that it was the Lord that allowed it to happen. And I think we need to understand and be able to process the fact that the affairs of nations and leaders and governments, and even in this situation, the Lord allowed for his people to be taken captive. He has a hand. He's sovereign. He has a hand in the things that happen in our world. I kind of remember Proverbs 21:1 whenever I think about this, that the Lord moves kings like a water course, like a stream of water in his hands. He even though despite the fact that it may not seem like God is at work in Daniel's life, in the Babylonians' lives, in Israel's life, and even in our lives, and even in the life and culture that we're experiencing today. So very briefly, I want to dive into this theology that kind of runs the gamut all the way through Old Testament and New Testament. And that is that Daniel and his friends, Daniel and the Israelites, are exiles. We are also exiles. We exist on planet Earth, but we are not, this is not our home. We live with eternity in mind. We live for eternity, not for these 70, 80, 90 years, however long we're going to live on Earth. And it can kind of be broken down into two things. So you have the Jerusalem mindset and the exilic mindset. The Jerusalem mindset is like Israel, which represented security and comfort. They were familiar surroundings, religious practices, culture, a common history. Strongest period of Jerusalem's history was when Solomon was king and the temple was being built and people came to see what was happening in Jerusalem. The other mindset is the exilic mindset. When both Israel and Judah, they were forcibly removed from their land. They were taken hundreds of miles away to an unfamiliar culture and identity. Everything that they knew was ripped away from them. And then as we explore the New Testament, we see there is a clear identification of God's people, you and I, followers of Jesus, as exiles. We are not citizens of the world, but our home is in heaven. So, as followers of Jesus, we need to be able to understand that we are fighting for the kingdom of God. We are here to live for eternity. And so we can do one of three things. We can choose to remove ourselves from culture, condemning it or withdrawing from it. We can conform to the culture, blur the lines, or perhaps there's this third way. There's a lot of writing that's been done on this, but how do we live our lives as humble, kind people who follow God despite what's going on around us?